Hi, I'm Alexis Vastrom. I'm going to be interviewing you about the war today.
Okay, and I'm Rachel Bodner, and I'm from Baltimore, and I gladly answer your questions.
Thank you. What do you remember about when the war began?
Yes, I remember I was in school, because it was May, and it was May 10th, but before I went to school, we heard the thunder, like a thunder. We first thought that it was gonna thunder, but it wasn't. It was really already some, I don't know, where cannonballs or something that they were firing. And being that they were only an hour, from Antwerp, it's like maybe an hour and a half to the German border, to the east. We probably heard the noise, must have, reverberated or something, and we were scared. I know we were scared. We went to school, and we had our classes, but when I came home, my father and mother were discussing maybe we should leave, because they were scared. We were scared of the Germans, and we said, okay. My mother had her siblings. She had like 4 siblings living in Paris, 1 brother and 3 sisters. And she said, you know what, I'd like to go and join my sisters. And my father said, okay. And it was like, it took us a few days. We packed, my mother got us some, we used to call that backpacks, but it was rucksacks in Flemish. And we got these backpacks, and we packed certain things, and we figured, my father went to get, and it took like, I think, 4 days for us to decide to leave. So it was like May 15th that we left.
What kinds of things did you pack?
I cannot remember. I guess a change of clothes and underwear, probably, and
Was there anything special that you brought with you?
no, because you know what? We were also disturbed. It kind of a little bit in shock, I think. That's why it doesn't register what I cannot for the life of me remember what, but I know we each packed a backpack. And my mother, I later found out she put the money that we had. We did not deal much with banks, because in the business that we had, you needed cash every day, so it was back and forth, And my mother had bought a few diamonds, she had, and I remember my father had bought a whole slew of furs, called caracul, and these are like better than the Persian lamb.
The caracal is a cat from Africa?
I know, it's
Yeah?
from Russia. It's like a Persian lamb, but it's a nicer Persian lamb. It's like the elite, beautiful, gray skins, they were beautiful. So he had invested money into that, and we bundled that up and we carried it too. It wasn't such a big bundle, but it meant a lot of money. In those years, maybe $1,000 was a lot of money, It's not like compared to today. So anyway, we went on the train, and when we sat down, there were already people on the train, and we went from Antwerp to Brussels. I cannot very much remember whether, but I think we went on the train in Antwerp, and there wasn't that much room anymore. But my father and my mother were seated, and my older sister was sitting too. And there was only 1 spot left, at the end of the wagon somehow, but you had to sit a little high, and for a normal person to sit there, she had to sit with her head down because there was something obstruction. I couldn't see my sister sitting there. She was older than I was anyway. I said to my sister, no, you go sit with Dad and Mom, and I'm gonna sit there. And it was grueling, to sit like that. My neck hurt after a while, but I didn't say anything. And my little sister sat on my mother's lap or father's lap, I can't remember. And now we're going, it's supposed to be a 5-hour trip to Brussels. 3 days we were in that, 3 3 days we were in that
Why did it take so long?
train. Because he went 1 hour and stopped for 3 hours. Why? I'll never understand why. But that's how it was. So the Red Cross came around and brought us water and brought us bread with lard. There was lard on it, white bread, so we ate that. And my aunt was with me. My mother's oldest sister was with me, and she was very orthodox, you know, crazy. She didn't want to touch it. And my father, and we know it, for survival you can eat anything. You can eat, you know. No way, she was such a stubborn woman. So we tried to find from the Red Cross, we kept eating just plain bread, nothing on it. I don't know whether they did or not, I can't remember much about that.
Were a lot of the passengers on the train
Jewish? No. We were very mixed. I would say really, because there were not that many Jews to begin with in Antwerp, and I don't know what happened. I would say that probably 60% were Christians and maybe 40% Jews.
So why was the Red Cross bringing food?
Because we couldn't get out of the train. We were just sitting there. You relinquished your space. You came back, you didn't have anything. So everybody was watching his seat. Me with that seat, I remember like today. But at night, what happened at night, because a lot of us, I don't know, maybe the younger ones, we laid down on the ground to sleep because it was just impossible. And with the stopping. And then we got to the border. After, I think, 2 days, we got to the border. And then you had to cross the border to get to a French train. And it was also hours and hours of checking us and seeing to it. It was really, it's all now a blur to me, but I know it was unbelievable. Then we got into that other train, and again we were going. Now we are going again at the same pace. And now we had gone on the train the 15th, and I said, see, the 16th the night, the 17th the night, now with the 18th the night. And I say to my, I think I told my sister, I said, you know, tomorrow is my 13th birthday, the 19th of May. I have a very bad premonition. I said to her, I have a very bad premonition. And she kept on saying, why? I said, 13, that number 13, I don't like 13, you know? It's always been. During the night, we were in the train station in Arras. And here along comes a train full of French soldiers, and parking right next to us. And you know, we couldn't always stay in that train, so I think I went off the train to walk a little bit, and my pants too maybe, and then, you know, people went in and out. Then we had our seat, you know, and we figured nobody's gonna touch. So the soldiers come down, and I started talking to them, and they say they're going to the front. And I say okay, and I don't know, we went into conversation. We're finished, and we're going, and we're trying to sleep. The next morning, I think it was like around 9 o'clock. They left 6 o'clock, I remember, because I looked at my watch or whatever. 6 o'clock, that train of the soldiers departed. And we, the refugees, are sitting in that train in Arras. Arras is like all the stations in Europe. You know, it's covered with glass. It's made out of glass, the station where the train is in there. We're hearing a noise, and the airplane is coming. It's 9 o'clock. And, you know, and I didn't feel good, and I said, it's my birthday, you know, nobody even thought about it. This plane comes over, it's a German plane. We could see some of them started howling, said, Bosch, this is German. slang, lousy slang for German. It's like you call a Jew a kike, you call a Bosch for German. And he bombs us. He bombs the train, the beginning of the train, the end of the train, and we're in the center of the train. And it's like incendiary, the flames started shooting up. And my mother, you know, the trains from those years, you know, you're sitting, you know, like here, and somebody sits opposite you, but you have a door there and a door there to get out. All doors, the train, that used to be that type of train. And my mother goes to, and tries to open. My father had gone out at 6 o'clock to go and look for milk for my little sister. She's 3 years old. And my mother tries to open that door, but from the pressure of the bomb coming down, it you know, the doors like lock in. So she tries, a window had broken, you know, because they were also like glass panels. She sticks her arm out to try from the outside, you know, to move the handle so she could open up. He's coming back, and people are already, you hear them screaming and shouting and running to the basement of that station. The station had a basement where it used to be underground tunnels from the First World War where people went in. So they knew it, so they all descend to go down. And my mother sticks it, and she tries again, and the guy comes back and machine guns. As the people are running, he's machine gunning them, because he thinks they're the soldiers. Somebody, a spy, must have said there's a whole train of soldiers in there, and so she finally draws her hand back, but she had to open the door, and she had gotten hit here and here, and here it was the artery. That blood was spurting there, and I'm like total shock. But we had learned in school if somebody is wounded to make a scarf around a tourniquet to hold the blood from coming out. So I had a scarf on, and I turned, and I couldn't stop, but I held my finger on my mother's hand to stop. And we got out of the train, and there's a soldier standing near the going down, a Red Cross soldier. I went over and I say in French, my mother is hurt. She's hit. Please, can you take her to the hospital? And he says, fine. So he takes my mother away. I'm turning around. Here's my older sister holding my younger sister, and she's bleeding from her foot. So I went straight over to the guy and I said, here's my little sister. She's wounded on her foot. Take her to the hospital you brought my mother to. And you know, on 3-year-olds, you had to hang on their names, because otherwise I had forgotten to put her name tag on. And she went after she had gone. I said, she doesn't have a name tag. How's she gonna know who she is? How they gonna know who she is? But in the meantime, I saw my father coming. Bless you. You see the sneezing dog. I see my father coming. I rush up. I said, Mom has been hurt, and our little sister too. And I was glad to see him, because I thought maybe he got killed, you know, in the bomb. And he has a bottle of milk with him. And I say, come, let's go in the shelter. And my sister came down, and she's like shaken, like she was always much more nervous, my older sister. We knew it, and we're going down in the base, there, underground, you know, and there's only cobblestones there. I swear, only cobblestones, all there. And we find a place, and my father says, maybe we ought to go to the hospital, so we're trying to go back. My aunt and my sister, I tell them, stay here, sit here, we're going to try to find Mom and Isabel, my little sister. As we are walking back, the soldiers are already on top there. The station said, you can't come out, you have to stay there. And by now, It's already the afternoon. We can't do nothing. So we said, and we are tired. We didn't sleep anything. So we find a spot somewhere. I remember like today, we're laying down on these cobblestones, cold and hard. And my father holds my sister with one and holds me with the other. And we're laying against him. And we fell asleep throughout the night. We woke up and the first thing, let's go and find Mom. And I say to my sister again, because I see she's totally shaking, I say, Ida, you stay here and you don't move, and I say to the aunt, and don't you dare move. Stay here, we'll come back to see you. We're going out, and now they're really shooting in the city. You know, we see soldiers on the roofs, and they're shooting at some airplanes that are coming over, the Germans are coming over. And they keep on hollering at us. And you see, that's when I know there were no Frenchmen fighting ever. Because they were shouting to us in English, and I understood, I had learned, I knew a little bit, you know, understood a little English. Get out of the street, get out of the street, you can't go in the street. But we went anyway, and we found the one hospital, if I tell you that hospital. Don't forget, there were people brought in from the 10 o'clock, 11 in the morning, and this is now the next day. They're laying all over the hospital, in the corridors, wherever you want. I wanted to tell you, when I got out of when my mother pulled me out, and I looked around me, and the people were asking, help me, aidez-moi, aidez-moi. And I looked, but I didn't want to look. There were people you could see already, legs bloodied up, and hands and faces. And, you know, it was such a horrible sight.
As a 13-year-old girl, how did it?
God, I said, you know, it was like, would you believe it? This is one of the weird things. I had 20/20 vision, perfect vision. So the blackboard never needed glasses. When I came back to school months later, I needed glasses. I couldn't see anymore the blackboard. And I had the same vision for maybe 40 years, never changed. Must have been the shock. So, if I tell you, that hospital, it reeked, and these poor people laying there, and each one looking. Did you see my daughter? Did you see my brother? Did you see? You know, my heart went out, and I'm running, and I'm looking for my mother, and I'm calling, Mom, Mom, you know, all over that St. Pierre. There were two, St. John and St. Pierre. And we're looking all over, and here is this, I'll never forget that, this elderly man, and he says, you know, do you speak Yiddish, you know, in Yiddish? I said, yes, what do you want? He says, I want to know about my grandson. My grandson, his name is so-and-so, and he told me the name. Go and look, if you find him, come and tell me that you found him. So then I go around and I ask the name also, and my father behind me. And we're coming to one room. It was one doctor for maybe 3,000 people in that hospital. One single doctor, a Frenchman. No, I didn't see another doctor. And a couple of nurses. And there's one room where they say, do not enter, you know, in French, ne rentrez pas. And I say, I gotta go in there. Maybe my mother is. I didn't care. I opened up and I went in, and I called my mother's name, and I called also the boy's name. And a boy answers me. He says, yes, I'm here, I'm here. I said, you know, your grandfather is downstairs. Maybe you can try to get the nurse to bring you down. So I'm going out and I say to the nurse, and you know, he's like wounded, sitting, laying there. I say to the nurse, tell me, his grandfather is downstairs. Maybe you could bring that boy down. You know, innocent me, 13 years old. She says to me, all the ones in that room are gonna die. And that hurt me so bad. I couldn't go back to the grandfather and tell him that. All these people are gonna die. She says, we have no help for them. This was so devastating. I'll remember the rest of my life. So then I went down and we didn't find my mother and we didn't find my little sister. And my father looked in the meantime too. Then we went to the other hospital again, the same thing. And the stench, because, they didn't change their whatever, and you know how the blood, how that smells after a while. My God, it was like unbelievable. I walked out. And then we went back and we found my sister, but my aunt, who had the fur package, she had disappeared. My aunt had disappeared. We couldn't find her. When looking all over, she disappeared. But I found my sister, and then they're coming, the soldiers are coming. You've got to get out of the city because the Germans have announced they're gonna bomb us. That's it. That's it. And you must probably read in some books, you will find the bombing of Arras. You will find it because they did come. We had to walk out. We had our backpack. We went back to the train and we got our backpacks. My mother, we asked her later what happened with the pocket. I mean, she had the money. She, when she was bleeding, she had forgotten, she had gone away. And when we went back in the train, we never saw a pocketbook anymore. Even then, some people go and loot. It's incomprehensible that people have while bombing and while the people are running and while everybody's screaming, they have still the idea to loot and take things. So now we're walking out of Arras, and we decided we're going to go west because we want to go to the border near where England, to the border where they're just crossing, so we could cross into England. And we went through, and it was funny. Just yesterday, how this was so funny. We went to one town where the animals were horses, dogs, and everything, because they had bombed there. But there was another town bombed. They were just laying in the street, killed, from the bombs, these animals. And they were talking about looting. Would you believe it? Our shoes were bloodied and everything was so, and there were a few people walking with us, and we're passing a shoe store, and one of them says, how about we go in and we get ourselves some shoes? And we thought nothing of it. We went in that store and we just threw away our shoes and we took other shoes.
When was this?
That was that was then, I would say, the 21st of May, like 2 days later when we went.
And who all was with you at this point?
My father was with me and my sister and another boy, a Belgian boy who had attached himself to us. He was 15 years old, a Boy Scout. I don't know, he didn't have any parents. Maybe he was running away from Belgium too, I don't know.
Was he with you for very long?
Yes.
What do you remember most about him?
I will tell you that when he attached himself, I maybe because we were two girls and he wanted to be with us and he felt safe. But as we went through that town where the horses were there, it's the funny part, the name of that town is Abbeville, and I had totally forgotten. And there in New Orleans, it said a sign, Abbeville. They have that town from the French, Abbeville.
Wow. That's
Destroyed. And all of a sudden came back to me. I said, that's the town that we walked through, where we saw the dead horses and everything. And there was a bombing there too. And probably if you would ask the French government, they would tell you that Abbeville was bombed.
How long?
Now, we're going east and the boy follows us. Now where are we gonna do? We're walking. How far can you go when you walk? So we got to a town called Flixecourt. Then I remember, because we said we gotta find a place where we can sleep. You know, like here they have shelters, but there they don't have anything like that. So we found a house and we went in there, but we went then to the police department. There was like a police department. Said, look, there's a house there and we need to sleep. We're just passing by. We're not gonna take anything. Do you allow us to sleep in the, yeah, it was the mayor's son's house. Nice house. I went in there with my father and we found the bedroom, and it was like we didn't want to disturb their beautiful bedroom, so we went to the attic. It was like 2 beds and we said we're gonna just sleep there. But my sister didn't want it. She went into a shelter. There was a shelter there. And she says, I'm too scared to be in a house. I want to be in the shelter. I said, okay, but I need to sleep, and Daddy, and we're going to sleep there. And I went to sleep there in that house. We stayed in that house for about, I would say, 5 or 6 days. Because we had to get back to ourselves. We didn't know what was going to be, how to, and there was a place where we could get bread in the morning. We had to stand on line. And in that house, we had, I found onions in the basement and old potatoes and a whole vat they had with eggs, you know, eggs in brine, in salt water to save, I don't know. They probably figured the war is coming, something like that. Would you believe it? There were others that, my sister, there was a young Frenchman, I mean, she was at the time 15, he was 17 with his mother in the shelter, but he liked my sister, so once in a while he used to come over to the house, because during the day she came into the house, because I said, look, I'm gonna cook out. I never cooked at home, but somehow I remembered my mother. Would you believe it? We ate eggs for breakfast, probably 5, 6 each, eggs for lunch, and eggs for supper. You had to eat something. So, you know, I made them, I fried the onions, or I boiled them, or I don't remember anymore. And then also, this is also, I said, but we gotta have some meat, we gotta eat something, how are we gonna get it? One guy, I remember, a Frenchman came by, just got, so, one guy came by with, I remember, with a little couch. He had a cow on it. The head had been shot off. He said the cow got hit by, you see, the Germans were hitting us with these cannonballs, and the English were shooting back the French. So we were like right in the middle, but it went like over our head each time, zzz, you know, while we were sleeping. As long as we heard it, we knew it was going to go over our heads. So he had a dead cow, and he said, do you want some meat? I said, yeah, give me a piece. Cut out a piece of meat. The cow has been killed by one of these cannonballs. And somehow I cooked it up. I think I remembered seeing my mother. I always loved to see my mother cook. And somehow I made that thing, 13 years old. And I said, I had a big piece, I said, you know, from the shelter, I invited that Frenchman who liked my sister and his mother. And he came, in fact, he stole a chicken one day from a farm and he brought us and we had to pluck, and I didn't know what to do with the chicken. But then it was good that I had that young boy from Belgium. He was a Boy Scout and he knew how to pluck the chicken. And there I see all these fleas on the chicken. I said, what is this? Then I remembered how my mother used to, over the flame, always hold that chicken, probably to kill the flea when it's a fresh plucked up. I mean, things that come to you, you know, when you're young.
Yeah.
So and my sister, she was like out of it. She couldn't do anything. She was like totally out of it. And one day the Germans hang up a sign where I went to get bread, and it said, all males from 15 to 50 have to come to the main place in that town, Flixecourt. I said, Daddy, you're not going? We're going back to Belgium. There's no way. The Germans had overrun us. We got to go back. So that's how we got back to Belgium. And then was the decree. We found my mother as we got back to Belgium. And there was the decree that Jews could not have phones or radios. In from 7 at night till 7 the next morning. Finished. For 2 years, we got kind of lulled into safety. We didn't realize what was going on. A lot of people disappeared, but you don't ask, you don't find out. You're like living in a twilight.
Did you go back to your original home in Antwerp?
Yes. We went back to Antwerp and we opened the store again, like nothing happened. Of course, we had lost everything. My mother had lost a pocketbook with all her money. And we never found the egg came also back, but she lost the fur, and you have to start from scratch. Now you see these people, this reminds me each time. They say, look, we lost everything. My parents lost everything. They had lost with the bankruptcy too, but now the second time. And it was a time of fear and sitting indoors and not knowing what was going to happen to us and having the feeling each time they're going to do something to us, but we didn't realize. I don't think anybody ever read really Mein Kampf. I am so astonished myself. How is it possible that a people, adults, we were children, adults read a book like Mein Kampf and are not alarmed and don't say we gotta get out of the way of these Germans, they're gonna annihilate us. Why? Each time I ask them, each one gives me that stupid answer. Oh, we didn't believe that something was gonna happen like that. And I am so frustrated. You read that somebody's gonna annihilate you and you just, you don't take it seriously.
Well, you said that people started disappearing for a while.
Yes.
And you didn't, it was kind of don't ask, don't tell.
Exactly.
So why, what did you think?
There was from generations on this thing in Jews, that submissive thing that I hated. I could not understand how rabbis for centuries and centuries always said, don't defend yourself. How is it possible to tell a human being, don't defend yourself? Why did they do that to the people? They put them in, it's like like with a mantra, you can't kill, you can't murder, you can't kill. And then you become submissive. I say the same thing for the blacks. I say, 50 Klansmen came and you were maybe 1,000 and you let them hang somebody? Why didn't you annihilate the other ones? Same thing, that if you become, if you become submissive, you lose. You lose.
If we can jump ahead just a
Yes.
little. When did the decision come? Well, when did the decision come for you to go someplace else? I know that you went to a convent. So what were the events that led up to this?
It was. We were lulled. We didn't do nothing. We just sat. And then my sister and we got a letter. I think I told you before. We have to come. I was 15 at the time. And she was 17. This was like 2 years later. To come and work in Germany, and they told us that every month we would be allowed to come 3 days to visit our parents. We have to come and work in Germany. This was from the German Kommandatur, the the one who was occupying Belgium, his stamp and everything, but sent out by the Jewish council. This also, the horror of it. The Jewish council sent to every Jew, because every Jew was registered with the Jewish council, that we have to come to work. And failure to do so, your family will be shot.
How did you respond to that?
Well, we went. You know, we are obedient people. We were always obedient for 1800 years, you know, since Christianity. We were obedient. You have to obey the others.
Did your father question it? Were you concerned?
Nobody questioned.
You just...
Nobody. We felt we're going to... Being people disappeared, you didn't know. Nobody knew there were concentration camps. Nobody knew. It was
so
like...
they left?
So my mother said my sister should go, and she'll send me a week later. And she went to the council and she said, look, I'll send my second daughter a week or two later, but I'll send the first one. We took my sister to the station, she left, she waved goodbye, she was crying, poor thing. And we gave her cards to just throw out of the thing. Maybe, you know, but we got only one card. I'm already one day in the train, I don't know where we're going and I'm scared. That's all she wrote.
Did you ever see her again?
She went straight to Auschwitz. 3 days later, that train went to Auschwitz and she got gassed.
When did you find out?
After the war. The Germans kept a good book. She went like with the second or third transport. You know, there were those that went before her. And it said they went to Auschwitz, the Germans. The train went straight. It was all a ruse, 15 transports from Belgium went straight to Auschwitz. 15 times 2,000 people. Straight. Young people and older people later and so forth. Well, what can after that, after the 15 transports, a year later, like, they kind of kept the ones who were healthy and younger people to work. But before that, it was total annihilation. Just total annihilation. And we were just lucky that one day they came in, like in Schindler's List, they came in and started taking the Jews out from their homes. I remember like today my mother, she grabbed her head and said, what have I done, she said. I had begged her, before my sister, when we got the letters, I said, Mama, I don't know why I had such sight. Mama, let's go into hiding. We can go and hide. And my mother answered me, I cannot do that to our neighbors.
Do you
And that's such a Jewish thing. I'll tell you why. It was always implanted in Poland, wherever, to Jews especially, that you could not do something different than what was directed, because it would be a shame. A shame. It was a shame for the neighbors that we should go and hide. And yet, when this happened, she right away said, oh, I've got to hide you. And she went to a Christian woman that we knew from way before, and she said, I want you to hide my 2 children with my little sister, and baptize them Christian, make them, I don't care, but they got to be saved. So the woman said, the only way I can save them is if I bring them to the convent where I went as a child. And she called up and but how could we go there with Jews? And they probably wouldn't take it. It's a danger everywhere it says, harboring a Jew, you're being shot. So she said, you know what, we'll say that they're Protestants, being you don't know anything about the Christian religion. So that's how we went. We went there. 2 days later, the daughter from that woman took us there. She was a lovely woman. She was I was 15, she was 20, and when she took us there, we went there as orphans. And she also found out, the woman, how much it would be. It's like you pay college here, because I was going to sleep in the dormitory. You know, we were going to sleep. So my mother gave the money to the woman, and we went to the convent. They gave the woman the money for the nun for the whole year for the two of us. And here, you know, I'm entering the church, the chapel in the afternoon, and you got to kneel, you know. Catholics are kneelers, you know. You have to. And after half an hour that I'm kneeling, I feel I'm gonna faint here. I'm gonna faint. I can't take it anymore. My knees hurt and everything. But I stood up then, you know, and my little sister, I felt so sorry for her. And I had said to her, remember one thing, don't ever tell we're Jews. We are not Jews, don't say anything. At night, you know, the nun said to me, let's pray, let's say our Father.
Lord's Prayer.
Our Father. I don't know. You don't know, and you're Protestant, they didn't teach you? No. So then she gave me a book to read from, and then we had maybe 15 Ave Marias after them, and I keep on saying, oh my God, how stupid. How can you keep on repeating the same thing over and over and over? Yeah, I'm giving you the truthful way that if you don't know anything, this is so absolutely ridiculous. Our Father I could see yet, you know, the prayer. But this?
Before you went to the convent, when you found out that your mother was looking into it, how did your father
My father didn't say anything. He let my mother do all the decisions, because all of a sudden she seemed the stronger one at that time, you know, to be able to manipulate and do things.
What do you remember most about your departure?
From where? Oh, the
From
departure,
home.
I'll tell you. So here I am, away from my parents and all that, and now we're going to sleep. And my little sister, you know, dormitory, you have curtains all around your bed and everything, because God forbid one would see the other one nude. God forbid, you know. For the Catholics, this is like a sin. Everything you do is a sin. And this too baffled me so totally. What is this? I mean, I don't know. I wasn't brought up. I never heard of sin. I never felt uncomfortable, you know, as a child or anything. And nobody ever told me of a devil. Oh, when I was 5 years old and somebody told me, Christian neighbor told me, there's a devil in. I said, the devil? And she showed me the picture. I didn't sleep for nights.
What did the picture look like?
You know, with the horns and like the fire all around him. You know, it's so frightening for a 5-year-old. Why frighten a child like that? We're so innocent at 5 years old to tell about the devil and, well, anyway, I go to sleep and I'm burning up from fever. All of a sudden, I got like, compared to 104 temperature. They called the doctor right away. He comes, he doesn't find anything. But in those years, when somebody had fever like that, that was meningitis. And they don't know what to do for it. So the nun comes and she washes my face. I can't say it. They tried to take it. And now, this is the thing. The cross is hanging over me with Jesus. Now I'm looking at that and I say, it's because of you that I'm in trouble. Because of you, I gotta be in a convent. Why? Why is this? Why should that be? Because I didn't understand much about Jesus. What do I know about Jesus? Never heard, never talked about him.
Do you understand now?
Do I? Sure I do. I saw it always at Christian neighbors, but I didn't think that this was God to them. I didn't know. You know, it's like, you probably would come and you'd see like a mezuzah and you would ask, what is this? I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. And I'm in such a fever. And guess what? That cross could knock me over my head. Took it down, shoved it under the bed. Do you know how many times that cross went up and under the bed? The nun came, she tried to, sponge me off, cross under, back up. Didn't take 2 minutes, it was right under the bed again. When I'm 15, my God, I'm a child, what do I know? After 3 days, I was like totally, all my muscles, everything, they had to come and massage my muscles. I was like totally out. They bring me down, I have to go see Mother Superior. Mother Superior walks up and back in front of me, red like a beet. Turns to me and like daggering eyes, she said to me, "You lied to me, you're Jews." Well, I started crying. I say, "I couldn't tell you because you wouldn't have accepted us." And she said, "I don't know what to do with you. I don't know what to do with you. You're orphans, and what am I going to do with the two of you?" So later on she told us, she called the bishop and said, "Look, I got 2 Jewish kids here, what am I going to do?" And he said to her, "Look, you got 25 nuns in the convent. If they find out, you're all going to be shot. It's up to you. I don't know what to tell you." And she kept us. She did keep us. That's why I say she was an unusual, wonderful woman to do that.
What was she like inside?
She was, I understand today, then we disliked her in a way because she used to say she's took in 17 Jewish children and we were, sometimes down and she used to say, "Oh, you don't like it here?" I remember her gesture. "You can go." She knew we couldn't go anyplace. There was like a bit of a hate relationship, but what we didn't know is she was such a brilliant woman. She understood that we were hurt. She understood, but she wanted to frustrate us, to change our thinking, from being frustrated, being that we don't think that way. She was very good at that, so that she got us angry in a way, but she didn't want that anger to go to ourselves, but to her in a way, because later I wrote to her about it and all that, and she explained, many things. And I honored her. She's got her plaque at Yad Vashem. I honored her because she was an unbelievable woman, unbelievable. And she helped me when I came to America too. And, I was there in the convent for 2 years. Ask me really if I can really, I can remember things, but ask me if I felt I was alive, no.
What do you mean by that?
I feel like I was in shock the whole time. I learned everything, I did everything, I was an excellent student. And I asked myself, how is it possible to excel like that and have such faith and not feel like you see the zombies, But I remember certain things, that stand out like. But otherwise, if you would ask me day by day, do you remember living through this and this? It's like a blur too.
Do you remember the food?
Yes, I do remember the food. I'll tell you why. We used to get, it was enough, but it wasn't enough. We were growing girls and could stand more food. And there was no fat, so it doesn't satisfy your hunger. I remember one thing. They used to make buttermilk porridge at night with rice and sugar, brown sugar. I loved it. That, none of them, we were sitting, let's say we were 50 in the mess room, and none, I would say like half of them couldn't eat it. So what do you think? It was a pleasure that evening, because I could get as much as I wanted the others. You know, Rachel, you want mine, you want mine. You know, the things that they disliked, that I finished, I had enough to eat. But the nuns, they were unbelievably good. Look, I'm 60 years that I left there. I'm still writing to them. Not that they're the nuns who were there, but you know, the continuation. Because I cannot forget these nuns. They were absolutely wonderful. If Christians want to have examples of people, they were the ones. And yet I hear others were in convents too and didn't fare as well as I did. But they were excellent. And food was like that. It wasn't enough to fill. And yet, you know, I can't say that I starved from hunger. And my little sister, I made sure that she should always have the bigger pile, because I felt that she wouldn't understand and I would. I didn't want her to suffer. Also in the morning, you know, we had to get up at about 6 o'clock to go every morning for Mass and all that. And I went to Mother Superior. My sister was 5 years old, and I said, look, I don't want her to go that early to church. She's a little girl. I want her to sleep. I'll make sure that she's down. I'll run up after, you know, after the Mass, and I'll dress her, and she'll come down, and we'll eat. But Saturday, Sunday, I don't remember. Saturday she could sleep too, I think. Sundays she had to. I had to bring her down. But I didn't mind, because it was later too. And then I understood, you know, more about the sacraments, you know, because the first day I see all the next morning when I was all right, I see everybody go for communion. Here I am, you know, following suit. What do I know? The nun grabs me, you can't go. Why can't I go? Why can't I go to this? Would you believe it? It took then learning catechism to understand that you have to be baptized in order to get the other sacraments. And there must have been children wondering why we did not go or nothing. But they didn't. Somehow they didn't betray us. It's weird.
Were there any close calls?
There was no. Absolutely. There was only one time that the Germans knocked at the door, and it was only because there was a light. But during that time, the nuns came and took the Jewish children in their quarters, and they dressed me already as a nun, because, you know, with these white robes and all that, and they said that the little children, like my sister, she would hide under my skirt. But that was the only time, but otherwise we were never bothered, which was also a miracle. It was just a miracle.
Where was the convent?
The convent was next to Brussels, like, it's called Louvain, and they have the most monasteries and convents there. It's known for monasteries and convents. And we stayed there for 21 months, and after the 21 months, we had, the Americans came, it was pre-VE Day, May again. It was May, every time May came around I was scared, because May we had to put on the star to walk, and what happened to when we ran away, and then May, when VE Day, all of a sudden, Americans came over to bomb, and guess what, they came and bombed, even though they know it's the convents, but they heard the Germans. It was true, the German soldiers were hiding in that town because they felt Americans are not going to bomb where there's monasteries, but they didn't. They came and they bombed, and the bomb fell like, let's say, half a block away from our convent, and we only the Jewish children were left in the convent at that time, because the Christian children had gone away once they started bombing. So we went to the cellar to it, and here's the, the priest and the nuns, and we down the cellar, and the bomb fell, I would say like a half a block away, and through the air, the air gets pushed out from somehow, from the force of the bomb coming down, and we thought here we're dying because we couldn't breathe. All of a sudden there was no air in the basement there, and like today I remember, and the priest fell, and the nuns fell, and we fell on top of everybody. We just fell. But then we realized after a while we could breathe, again. Oh, it was good. But then the nuns didn't want to keep us anymore, and they said, you have to go back to your parents. That was not such a good thing, because you came back someplace. There were always spies. Why are these children all of a sudden back? There must be something, and they always suspected there must be Jews or something. A lot of them were betrayed at that time. Only one family that I remember from 2 girls that were with us were put into concentration. One got killed, the other one in concentration camp. The others somehow survived. And we were taken, I went to my mother. She hid in the house of a resistance fighter. And they were the only Jews, my father, my mother, and one more guy in that house. The rest, he had rented out the resistance fight to Germans who were the ones conducting the trains to Auschwitz. They came back and forth. So he had given it to German, and he said, what better way to hide Jews than amongst the Germans who are there? Nobody will suspect it, It was his way of thinking. But, so I went back, and then my girlfriend, I had made a very good girlfriend in the convent, a Christian girl. She came with her father, confessor, and she came, you cannot stay here because you're in danger, you gotta come and stay with my parents. And I said, no, I don't go because they're gonna shoot you and your parents. And she wouldn't leave, and he wouldn't leave unless I went back with them. And my mother said, yes, I want you to live. And I went and I stayed 3 months with my friend and her parents, and I honored them too. And last year, the daughter from my girlfriend, because she died in the meantime, she was honored in Belgium. They made a big thing, not her, but all the other Christians who had helped Jews survive. And she was very touched by it because she doesn't remember her mother that much. Mother died when she was 14, so it's kind of honor for her and her grandparents, and they're coming to visit me this month.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, yeah, I'm glad. She's coming, the granddaughter.
When you returned from the convent
Yes.
to your home,
Yeah.
was your father still alive?
No, because my father, during the...
Should we do another tape, or should we finish up?